And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk. Doug Miles, Don Henderson with you tonight. Great weekend of sports. We'll get all to it right away. And I want to give our phone number, too. We've got a great guest coming up in just a minute here. 714-409-0535, 714-409-0535. And, Don, we're going to start off with a little basketball talk. I think you're going to have most of the questions because you kind of lived through this during the 76er games. It's great to welcome to the show, author. He's been with us before when he wrote the book on Walter Payton, a best-selling author. Jeff Pearlman joins us tonight, and his book is called Showtime, all about the great Laker teams of the 1980s, Pat Riley, Magic Johnson, Kareem, and the lot. And Jeff, thanks for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm good, but, I feel like you guys need a more snazzy name for your show than Sports Talk.
Yeah,
maybe like,
super. Didn't think that one out.
Like Super Sports Talk or like Killer Sports Talk or even just like Jerry Tarkanian's World of Horrors or something. I'm just saying with some pizzazz.
I can't say anything bad about Jerry Tarkanian. He was one of the nicest guys that I ever worked with
awesome.
over the UNLV. Anybody that meets Jerry Tarkanian and doesn't like him and doesn't like his family, I can't believe it.
I agree 100%. Truly
He's
good guy.
A terrific guy. And,
yep.
Some of the things that happened to him over the years were true, and some of the things that happened to him over the years were false, but he certainly made a lot of great college basketball teams everywhere he went. Whether they agreed with the way he did it or not is a different story.
True.
Well, your book kind of starts off with that, Jeff, the Showtime story where the Lakers offered Tarkanian the coaching job. I don't think a lot of people, if they don't remember it, maybe didn't know that fact. Kind of interesting story about that.
That is true. 1979, Jerry Buss bought the team. He and Jack Kent Cook, the outgoing owner, were doing the coaching search together. They decided Jerry Tarkanian from UNLV. They offered him $700,000 to coach, which was at the time was a huge amount of dough. He accepted, and his agent Vic Weiss negotiated a deal. And a couple of days later, Vic Weiss was found dead in the trunk of his car, killed by he was skimming money off the top of dealings with some mobsters he was working with, and they killed him. And when that happened, Jerry Tarkanian decided to stay at UNLV. So that was it for Jerry Tarkanian in the NBA. Well, until he coached the Spurs years later for half a season.
Well, Jeff, the interesting thing about that before we get to Showtime is that he really started Showtime at the William & Mack Arena, and after it was built in Las Vegas, he used all the same techniques, the flares, the lighting, the sound, the whole bit with his team, and he made them Showtime in Vegas.
That is true. He was probably ahead of his time when it came to showmanship in college basketball. I would agree. I don't think he would have been a great NBA coach, though, to be honest with you. I think some guys are meant to work with collegians. Some guys are better with pros. I think Jerry Tarkanian was very good at motivating young athletes. But I think in the NBA, I don't think it would have worked quite as well. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think that's absolutely correct. Where he belonged was in college because, he could sort of dictate the way he wanted things done, and you just can't do that in the pros. So, but Doug, let's get back to Showtime in L.A.
Well, Don, you saw that more firsthand than I did. You were doing some courtside games for the Sixers.
Yeah, I lived through it with the 76ers, and let me tell you, it was a great time to be with the 76ers. They had a great team, and Bobby Jones, and the only difference was that during that particular time, Wilt was not with the 76ers, which was a little bit disappointing. If Wilt had been with the 76ers against Kareem during that period of time, it would have even been more interesting, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. I mean, I think you'd have probably the two greatest offensive, post players in the history of the game battling each other. That would have been good.
What got you interested in, doing a book about Showtime in L.A.?
Well, I'm a kid of the 1980s, and I feel like people today who are too young may not understand how absolutely brilliant the basketball was then. And I grew up in this town where you either kind of rooted for the Celtics or you rooted for the Lakers. It was either Bird or Magic. It was either McHale or Worthy, and I rooted for Magic. I loved his style. I loved the pizzazz. I loved the fast break. I loved the pick and roll. I mean, I loved everything about it, and I thought he was just one of the most unique and brilliant basketball players of all time, and also had a style unlike anyone else. The smile and the charisma. I just loved him. And the cool thing about being an author is you get to sort of go back in time. I was a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, And now as an adult, you have to go back in time and see what really happened and how it really worked. So to me, it was just a dream project to work on, to be honest with you.
Well, Jeff, I've told this story to Doug many times, and when I talk about the NBA in those years, I'll never forget, we're flying back to Philadelphia. It's 3-2 Lakers in the World Championship Series, and everybody really feels that Kareem has the MVP all locked up. We get on the plane to fly from L.A. back for Game 6, and Kareem, lo and behold, has a migraine headache and doesn't come. They figure, well, they come to Philadelphia, they have a shot to win, but not a real good shot. They've got to go back to L.A., and he'd be healthy by that time, and he'd play in Game 7. And they had him all marked out for the MVP, and lo and behold, Magic moves into the center position and becomes a superstar in that game, and who else gets the MVP but Magic, and Kareem's back in L.A.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Magic scored 42 points in that game. Took the jump at center against Caldwell Jones in that game. And before the game, they were flying. In Philly, everyone thought Kareem was coming. They thought it was like the Lakers were kind of lying, and eventually he would show up. And they planned for it. And when the Lakers were flying to Philly, Paul Westhead, who was the coach at the time, talked to Magic and said, "How do you feel about playing center?" And he thought Magic wouldn't be so thrilled. I mean, this guy was a point guard, a great point guard. And Magic said, "I love it," because he'd played center in high school. He was so tall, he played center in high school. He was 6'9", and he loved the idea. And the truth of the matter is, if you remember that game, he sort of played everything. Like, it's almost a little off to say he played center. He played absolutely everywhere. He brought up the ball. He would give it over to Norm Nixon. He would play some small forward. He would play off guard. I mean, he was. It's, to me, people talk about like Michael Jordan in the finals, against when he had the flu and he put up the amazing numbers, and he was indeed, brilliant, and LeBron, brilliant. But that game might have been the best finals game ever played by an individual, where Magic Johnson just lit up the Sixers, and they won the game without Kareem Abdul-Jabbar around. Yeah,
it was really amazing at the time, and what a great game to broadcast. I was fortunate enough to be there at that time broadcasting the games, and as you said, people thought Kareem was coming, but Westhead coached at LaSalle, so I knew him very, very well, and when he said he wasn't going to come, I really believed him. I mean, I did not think that he was going to show up at the last minute. I know the newspapers wrote a lot about it, but Paul was a pretty honest guy, and he had a different style of coaching, but, I really did not think Kareem was going to be there for that sixth game.
Yeah. So you probably knew, did you know Jack McKinney, too?
Oh, I knew Jack very, very well, and boy, God, just for those folks that are listening right now that don't realize, he was one of the coaches of the Lakers as well, and had a very serious bicycle accident. He was out riding one morning on the bike and tumbled off and had, I don't know, he didn't have a helmet on or what, but he had severe head injuries. And that's the opening chapter of my book. Is me? I went down to see Jack McKinney in Florida because Jack McKinney was Magic's first coach with the Lakers. And he started out that year at 10-4, and I think McKinney would have had a great run with the Lakers, but he had that head injury, and Paul Westhead was his only assistant coach, and that's why Paul Westhead wound up coaching the finals, and Pat Riley was his assistant because he needed an assistant. He was in the broadcast booth. That's right. I have not spoken to Jack in some time, but he never really recovered 100%. He did try to go back and coach a little bit again, but it didn't work too well. And you talked to him recently, so you know much better than I. But he sort of would lose track of things. He'd talk about something, or he would not remember. And after he talked about it, then he would remember what actually happened. But it was a long period of recovery. Oh yeah, it actually was sad. He later coached. He coached Indiana, won the NBA Coach of the Year. But he actually he used to have to write his players' names on the front of their shorts so he would get their names right. And then he had a moment. His last coaching job was with the Kings, and he was coaching the Kings in a game, and he started talking to the players, and he started talking about the next play they should run, just like that game we had against St. John's. And he didn't realize that he was talking about a college game from years ago. And that was his last. And he ended up. It was really, really unfortunate. As I say, where is he living now? He lives in Florida. He does live in Florida. Okay, I didn't even know that. Yeah, he's a great guy, and his wife, and
he's still good friends with Jack Ramsey, and he's just lovely. Such a nice man.
Well, they had a great Yeah, I don't know how much you know about the Big Five in Philadelphia, but all the coaches of the Big Five, and Paul, of course, was at LaSalle, and as we're talking about St. Joe's, and Jack Ramsey really was the forerunner of all of them. He coached St. Joe's for a long, long period of time before he became general manager of the 76ers. Not a real good general manager, but a very good coach. And, of course, then we wound up playing against him when he was a coach at Portland. And he, of course, beat the 76ers as well in the World Championship Series. And so we had a lot of ties with the Lakers, a lot of ties, with Portland and so forth, because they all came from Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, they were Philly boys. In fact, when they went back, when Westhead, it was very emotional for Westhead when he went to play to coach against the Sixers in that 80 finals because he was coming home, And,
right.
Yeah, I mean, they had a style, and like you said, LaSalle and, St. Joe's, they had sort of an East Coast style of basketball that I feel like they brought west, I don't know. I actually went to University of Delaware, so, we used to play, Drexel all the time and play St. Joe's at the Palestra, so I'm well-versed in East Coast basketball that those guys were brought up in.
Well, Drexel's playing tonight for in fact, Boomer, another Philadelphian who went up to Massachusetts and he was a long-time assistant coach in Philly, and now he's coaching, he's coaching Drexel. Drexel's playing tonight.
Yeah,
I think that comes on around 7:30 or something like that. I'll take a look at it.
Yep.
Chef Don goes all the way back. He knows Dr. James Naismith, so he wants some info on that.
I heard he played with George Mikan in the rookie.
George was right. He was right after me.
When you talk about Magic Johnson, you got a lot of great stories in the book. How he really, ran the team not only on the floor, but talking about the Paul Westhead thing. Basically, he was the guy that got Paul Westhead fired, right?
He did. Westhead really changed after it. So Westhead basically ran McKinney's offense when they won the championship. He said he was going to keep everything the same, and he did. And the next season he comes back and he decides, I'm going to kind of change things up. And he started doing a lot of things that none of the players understood, having guys go to spots on the floor, kind of increasing Norm Nixon's ball handling and decreasing Magic's a little bit. And the players were really fed up by it. And even years later when I talk to them, they just don't understand because he had this great thing going, but he wanted to establish his own identity as a coach. So he changed a lot, but the players got really upset. And Magic had, he had leverage. He had just signed a 25-year, $25 million contract. So he spoke out, first with Jerry Buss, then in the media, and Paul Westhead got fired. And they hired some assistant nobody had heard of named Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing was that, you go back in time, and in fact, Kareem just made a documentary about the Wrens in New York. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but he used that philosophy. Westhead believed that if you ran fast enough, you beat everybody else down the court, and he wanted to score 120 points a game, whether it was in college or whether it was in the pros. And, as you said, it just wasn't the transition game that L.A. was accustomed to.
Yeah, but Loyola, he was great. I mean, that was sort of perfect.
Same offense.
Yeah, Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball, and
unfortunately, Gathers had the heart attack and died.
That is correct.
Jeff Pearlman's our guest. The name of the book is Showtime, and it's filled with the great stories about those players on those great Laker teams of the 80s. And we talked about Magic a little bit, and you got some great stories in the book of his partying as well. I think a lot of people may have had an idea what it was like, but maybe even a little bit more than we knew about what was going on with Magic.
Well, he liked ladies, and he would have very wild sort of soirees at his house. And you had Jerry Buss, an owner, who kind of set that similar tone.
Oh, I think we lost Jeff there. Did we lose you,
Jeff?
Jeff?
We did.
I think we lost. Yeah, we did.
I think it cut out.
Maybe he'll call. And sounds like he was in his kitchen too, didn't it, Don? He was making dinner.
I don't know. Maybe we give him a call back. I'll talk for a couple of minutes while you try to dial him back in.
Bring him back on here. See if we can get him on here. But great book, and like you said, Magic Johnson really owned that team, and he took control right away as basically a second-year player with the Paul Westhead situation. Did you ever talk to Paul about that, Don?
Well, yeah, I did, and as I said, he had this philosophy, as you mentioned a moment ago, when he had Gathers and those guys, and he did the same thing at LaSalle. You know, he was not defensive oriented; he was totally offensive oriented. He wanted to move the ball up and down the floor as quickly as you could, thinking that you could get more easy baskets than the other guys, and you know, it worked for a short period of time, but in the long haul. You just can't win without playing some kind of defense. And, you know, in the end, what it always got him was if he was in a tournament or if he was in the NBA or whatever, his difficulty was in trying to you know, get some kind of defense together in games that he wasn't able to score a lot of points.
Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get Jeff back on. We dialed, but it didn't connect. So we'll try and get him on maybe a future show. But you got at least a taste of hearing from Jeff. And again, I had a chance to get through the book. It came on a Friday. It's a long book, Don. It's kind of like the Ted Williams book we talked about last week. It's about 400 pages. But if you like basketball, it's got great stories. You talk about Jerry Buss. I didn't realize how much of a kind of a party guy he was. He really enjoyed the off the court activities. I don't know if you ever dealt with Jerry Buss at all.
No, I never really did, and but I'd like to have had him give some of his stories, some of the things that really that he enjoyed writing about, and you know, some of the older things and the players. I had a lot to put in place, but when it came to off the field activity or off the floor activities, I really didn't have anything to do with that.
Great story in the book about how Jack Kent Cooke owned the Lakers, and he sold it to Jerry Buss, who was basically, I guess, a chemist. I think that's where he got his doctorate in. Worked in some companies as a chemist, but then he got into real estate. That's where he made his huge amount of money out in L.A., and just wanted to get into buying a team. And, of course, Jack Kent Cooke, people know him probably more from his ownership of the Redskins than he did with the Lakers and the Kings. Kind of a notorious owner, almost in the Charlie Finley mode, right? A little eccentric.
No question about it. No question about it. But as you say, he had an eye for showmanship. He wanted a team that was going to be a showmanship type team that had great talent and could win. And that's what he put together, you know. And you can say anything you want to about those teams in that era. One thing that he said that I have to agree with 100%. In my view, it was a lot better sport then than it is today. I have a very tough time, watching NBA basketball right now.
Yeah, we've talked before about the great Knick teams. That's the team I kind of grew up watching, and in '73, of course, the great team style of basketball. Then the NBA kind of fell on hard times, and in the mid and late '70s, it was on tape delay. Most of the playoffs and the finals were actually on tape delay for a few years until really Showtime. I think that might have been the first finals, the Showtime finals, I guess 80, 81, when the Lakers first made it, that they went back to live broadcast of the playoff, or at least the finals anyway. Yeah,
you might be right there. And as I say, it sort of dropped out of sight until Julius Erving came back, and he sort of ignited the sport again. And then, of course, nobody ignited it like the Sneaker King, but they were the two guys that actually brought it back. And then it was Magic and Bird. But right now, they've got some great players, but it's just a different kind of game. That's all. First of all, my feeling is there are too many teams. I just don't think that you can create the rivalries and the talent that they had in those days against one another. And so, I mean, you could name a team and go down on the street in Tampa and say, give them 10 names, they wouldn't even know who they were playing for.
Yeah, yeah. These teams of that era, other than Showtime, obviously, Kareem Jabbar, everybody knows that name. But like you talk about Dr. J with the 76ers, and of course you go to Portland with Bill Walton and those great teams. You knew 3 or 4 of the players, even if you weren't that close a fan of that team. Now, people know LeBron James and Durant. Those are the 2 players most people know, but other than that, not many other players.
And I'll tell you, one thing that brought it to mind was I read in the paper today something I did not realize. that it was 20 years ago that Michael Jordan decided to go out of basketball and into baseball when he came down here. They were talking about Ed Smith Stadium being built in 89 or something like that. Right. I can't remember, 79, 89, whatever it was. And at that time, the White Sox trained here. And so this was an anniversary of when Jordan first came down here, gave up basketball and decided to play baseball, not too successfully, but they were talking about that as one of the anniversary dates at the ballpark.
Yeah, 1994, that was huge down here with spring training that year when Jordan came down. Then he played Double-A with the Birmingham Barons, and his manager, Don, was Terry Francona.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw that on the documentary they did on ESPN. They ran that recently, and I had forgotten that or didn't really realize that. I probably heard the name, but, yeah, he was his manager for that year.
I did not realize that at all. How about that?
Well, we're not going to get Jeff back. We had about 10, 15 minutes with him. So if you like basketball, we do recommend the book. Showtime is the name of it. It's already doing well in the top 10 list. I saw it in the paper yesterday. So